What's up, everyone? Thank you so much for checking out the More Than podcast. I can't even believe I'm saying that because I have been dreaming of launching this for so long. So the fact that it's out there and you guys are taking your time to check it out means the absolute world to me. Before we dive into episode 1, I wanted to first explain what More Than is all about. I know it's kind of a tricky name, but I've been conceptualizing the same idea for a really long time. And when I was interviewing different women to come up with exactly what this was going to be all about, I realized a common theme. And that was that everybody has a label that they've been defined by, whether they've been labeled a model or a mom or an athlete or defined by their insecurities. Honestly, there's something that they've almost hidden behind. And I believe that we're so multifaceted, so multi-passionate that you can't just summarize who you are in a couple words. And for me personally, when I realized that I'm not defined by anything if I don't allow it to stick to me. Other people can think whatever they want, say whatever they want, define me however they want, but if I don't take that on, the whole world opens up for me. And I wanted to be able to give that to other people. You're not defined by what somebody else said about you. You're not defined by your insecurities. You're not defined by whatever label you're hiding behind right now. And that's when More Than came to be about, because it really does apply to everyone. So we'll be spreading it out over the next few episodes when I'm bringing different women on that are showing how they're more than whatever you may know them as. So that's what More Than is all about. I hope that this is something that positively impacts you and inspires you and is something you can look forward to coming on each week and hearing some friendly voices, and it feels like you're just grabbing a glass of wine with one of your girlfriends and having a real conversation. So I'm really excited that you're taking your time, and I guess let's just dive into episode 1. The first episode is actually going to be a solo because I thought it was really important you get to know me and get to know the lady behind the microphone every week. So I guess without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode number 1. I thought it was really important for you guys to get to know me and get to know my story because a lot of what I've been through over the past 5 years has strongly shaped me into who I am today and why this company was so important for me to launch. So as we dive in, we're going to be talking a lot about health and wellness along with mental health because those topics have been reoccurring in my life and they've really set the foundation for my life over the past few years. So I guess let's just go ahead and start from the beginning. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jordan Wessel. I'm 26 years old and I currently am a professional model in New York City. But I am a small town girl from a town called Monument, Colorado. It literally was a truck stop when I was growing up. I had the Rocky Mountains basically in my backyard. It was a gorgeous place to grow up that I totally took for granted. But I'm one of 3 kids and I was always desperate to be the center of attention. That's like just classic middle child, I think. I dreamt of being a model or an actress and I idolized Hilary Duff. Like Lizzie McGuire was my everything. And I have a deep love of dancing. So I was a competitive dancer from ages about 6 to 15, and I had an ongoing hip issue that I was born with that just progressively got worse the longer I was dancing. And I remember having to go in for an x-ray and an MRI when I was 15, and the doctor came back and basically said, if you continue dancing and doing the damage you're doing, you won't be walking by the time you're 30. So, as you can imagine, that was pretty terrifying of a thought. I mean, I'm almost 30 now and I can't even imagine. My hips are still in bad shape and I can't imagine if I continue dancing, but that's beside the point. So I stopped dancing and for the first time in my life, I became hyper aware of my body. I think I was just always so active and I got to eat whatever I want and was around a lot of girls that had similar builds to me. But once I stopped dancing and just kind of focused on hanging out with different groups of friends, I realized I was always like one of the tallest and biggest out of my friend groups. Like I was always as tall as the boys. I was 5'9" at 15 and I wore way too much eyeliner. It was such a social butterfly and just really enjoyed hanging out. But the older I got, the more anxious I became. And a lot of my anxiety sparked from my body. I was so insecure about looking that I was big, and I was on a team where one of the girls had made a comment to me that I was so much bigger than the rest of the team, and that stuck with me. So when I quit dancing and cheerleading, I really tried to cover up my body as much as I could. And I remember that's when my whole body image really began to distort. Like during summers, I wouldn't go to pool parties. I would do my best to not wear short shorts. Just like any girl, I think, that is already struggling with self-confidence issues, I didn't want to bring any more attention to my body. So when I graduated high school, I made a crazy decision to move to Arizona. All of my friends were staying in Colorado. My boyfriend at the time was in Colorado, and that was kind of the set plan I had for myself. And I don't know why I felt this huge desire to leave and reinvent myself and really step outside of my comfort zone for the first time. And so I decided to go to ASU. I was really excited about the whole opportunity in graduating high school. And then one morning I woke up and I was violently sick. I had such horrible stomach pains that I couldn't even sit up straight. I couldn't eat. I couldn't go to school. I really couldn't do anything. So we went into a bunch of different doctors trying to figure out what was going on, started testing, and doctors just passed it off as anxiety. They were like, you have a lot of changes going on in your life right now. Your anxiety is probably just all held in your stomach, which is really frustrating when you know that something is wrong and people are trying to brush it off as something as simple as anxiety, which I've learned over the past few years. Anxiety does do wild things to your body, but that definitely wasn't all that I was struggling with at the time. So when I got to Arizona, the pains weren't getting any better. And by the grace of God, my parents ended up moving to Arizona as well. They were about 20 minutes away from me, and they started taking me into the Mayo Clinic. And when we got there, one of my blood tests indicated that there could be a potential tumor somewhere. So we spent weeks doing every test known to man. I remember being in a mammogram when I was 17 years old, trying to figure out if that's what was going on. And it was just a scary time. And for the first time in my life, I could care less what my body looked like. I just wanted to feel healthy. That was my number one focus. And I remember going over the test results with the doctor at the Mayo Clinic, and she was just dumbfounded. She's like, I don't know what it is. And she literally started Googling different diets that I could try to see if it could help. I remember sitting there with my mom and just being like, are you kidding me? I'm at one of the top hospitals in the world and you're Googling stuff. It was crazy, and everybody was guessing, and I was put on 13 different medications. So the side effects were so severe that although it was taking away some of my stomach pain, I was getting excruciating headaches. I was starting to pass out. I was tired all the time. My entire personality changed. I didn't even feel like the same person. And so I remember being at my parents' house one night and just breaking down, bawling my eyes out, and was like, please God, just heal me. And if you do heal me, I will never complain about what my body looks like ever again, which definitely I have not held to that promise. I'm human, but my number one focus was just to feel better. And I met this trainer who had had similar stomach issues, and he promised me that if I gave him 3 months of dedication to following his meal plan and his workout regimen, that after 3 months I would be off all medication. And at that time I was literally I would sell my soul to be off this medication. So let's do it. And after the first month, I literally cut my medication in half. It was an actual miracle. And I just decided I was going to dive in 100% because I not only was starting to see my body change a little bit, but I started feeling like myself again. And the gym that I was going to was filled with fitness competitors, which at the time I thought were the poster children for health, which I have learned they definitely have their issues. And I had my own issues going into that world. But I it was summer at this time of college, so I had moved back home, and I was at the gym every single morning at 6 a.m. doing sprints. I would work out for an hour. I would do another hour of cardio, and then I would have breakfast and then try and go a little bit throughout my day, work, do whatever I could, and then at night would go back to more sprints, go to bed early, and redo the whole thing. And at the time, I was eating under 1,000 calories, which now looking back, it makes sense why I was dramatically losing so much weight. But at the time, I was just like, everything I'm doing is paying off. I'm finally feeling better. My stomach really had nothing to digest because I was barely putting anything in it. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm healed. This is amazing. And after 3 months, I was off all medication, and I was also down 50 pounds. So if you can picture me, I'm 5'10" right now. And I literally was 93 pounds when I stepped on stage. And it was the first time in my life that I was flooded with compliments about my external appearance. Everyone was asking me what I was doing, saying how incredible I looked. And it was just kept fueling me. It was like, oh, wow, everybody is noticing how hard I just worked. And at the fitness competition, I actually placed 5th overall, which was pretty amazing for a first show. And one of the judges came up to me afterwards and said, you're too skinny to be doing a fitness competition. You belong on the Victoria's Secret runway. And that was like the biggest compliment I had ever heard. Like, that's all I wanted. I'd always wanted to be a model. And prior to losing all this weight, I had even tried going into modeling agencies. And there was one in particular that the head of this agency saw me, and she just said, "Hun, you got a gorgeous face, but I just don't think you have what it takes to be a model." And after this fitness competition, I walked into the exact same agency, and that exact woman signed me on the spot. So I was getting all of this validation from people. And I was like, I will continue this lifestyle forever. And I'm the definition of health right now and taking such good care of myself. Well, the flip side of that was not only was my diet completely unsustainable, but I started taking fat burners right before the competition, which I was completely naive. I'm 19 at this time. I didn't know the long-term effects of fat burners. I just wanted to keep going. I wanted that extra push. And honestly, if my trainer would have told me to eat dirt, I probably would have done it. I just had so much trust in what he was telling me to do. And so those fat burners really jacked me up. I had lost my period completely for 2 years. My hormones got completely thrown off. And then my stomach issues started coming back because every time I would try and eat something outside of tilapia, asparagus, and rice cakes, I would get physically sick. And so I was ignoring all of these signs that were basically just telling me you gotta stop, because I was like, no, for the first time in my life, everything's happening for me. So of course, I can look back on that now and be like, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that. But the reality of what I did is I just kept going for it. I kept up with my workouts. I was talking with my agents about actually relocating to LA for a big modeling contract. And it was really important to my parents that I graduated college. And that truly is the only reason why I didn't move to LA and didn't go down that rabbit hole. And now looking back, I'm thankful I didn't, because I know that I would not have been in a good mental headspace by myself with how destructive I was being. But I went back to school and rushed a sorority. And during that time, one of the directors for the Miss Arizona USA pageant came into our sorority meeting and started talking about the pageant. And I had never grown up wanting to be a pageant girl. I had never watched Miss USA or Miss America. That just wasn't of any interest to me. So when they were talking about it, I still wasn't even taking it seriously. And one of my sorority sisters literally turned to me and was like, "I'm signing you up for this. You're doing it." And I was like, "Absolutely not." And a bunch of them started chiming in "Yes, you are. It's going to be amazing. We'll come and cheer you on." So the more I was thinking about it, the more information I got about it, I was like, if anything, it'll just help my modeling career. It'll be something new that I can try, and it'll push me outside of my comfort zone. So I had, I think, 2 or 3 months to prepare for the pageant. And I know the hardest part for a lot of people in these pageants is getting their bodies ready. And here I am a month, 2 months after my fitness competition. So that was one thing that I was pretty confident in the way that my body looked. So I just needed to learn the other aspects of the pageant. And I also didn't have any money at the time, which pageants are quite expensive. And so I decided that if I was going to do it, I was going to try and get anything and everything sponsored so that I didn't go in debt over it. So I literally got like my hair extensions, my spray tan, my gown, my swimsuit, everything sponsored, which was amazing. And I'm very, very proud that I did that because I saved myself a lot of money in the long run. And I was being pushed by a contact that I had out in LA that was helping me connect with some really incredible people that were eager to dress me and eager to have their information in the sponsor book at Miss Arizona USA. So I went into the weekend not ever thinking that I could come out the winner. That wasn't my goal. I mean, I was competing with 4 other sorority sisters and I wanted it to be a fight, but I had every thought that I was going to like go back to school on Monday and life goes on. So I think that that's what actually helped me and helped my mentality is because strictly to win. I made a lot of friends. I had a really, really good time. And I remember being called into top 10 and was like, what the heck? This is amazing. And then top 5. And from there, it was just kind of a blur. I answered my top 5 question and just felt so confident on stage. There was no anxiety there. And it was very much like either they love me or they don't, like take it or leave it. And when they crowned me Miss Arizona USA, I was in complete and utter shock. And I wasn't prepared for that next chapter of my life, which, don't get me wrong, Miss Arizona USA was one of the most exciting times that I am forever grateful. There was so much positive in it, and it was so much fun. But if I could ever go back in time, there's a lot of things that I would tell my little 19-year-old self because I was so naive. But the Miss Arizona USA pageant, the next, my different sponsors, I got a new trainer, met with all these other people that all meant well, but they tried to start just changing my appearance. And I didn't realize there was anything wrong with me until people started saying what was wrong with me, that I needed a boob job and that my teeth are too small, I need veneers, and that my extensions needed to be longer, my spray tan needed to be darker, my makeup needed to look better, I needed to be more confident in heels and be dressed up every single day. And it was just complete opposite of what my lifestyle was prior to that. So I started just getting really hard on myself. And right around that time, right after I won, is when my metabolism crashed. I started meeting with a new trainer, and he was an absolute godsend because he cared so much more about my mental health and my long-term health than he did about me winning Miss USA. And at the time, that drove me crazy. I went from a different trainer that was giving me all the quick fixes that I needed in order to win, in order to look my best, like little tricks, even though they weren't healthy, of how my body could look best the next day. And this other trainer, Scott Keppel, was the direct opposite. He was like, no, you need to eat stuff that's actually going to fuel you and give you nutrition. You don't need to be at this gym for 3 hours. You need to be here for 30 minutes to an hour, and then you need to go home and like live your life, like go spend time with people. And I didn't listen to his advice because I, of course, knew everything at 19 years old. And so I kept just trying to go back to my old habits and see if they would help. And that's when I really learned about the concept of metabolic damage. And my metabolism completely crashed. It didn't matter what I ate. I went back to my competition diet and I still was gaining weight and I couldn't stop it. And it was so frustrating because I felt completely out of control. And here in just a couple months, I was going to be on national television with millions of people watching me, and I was embarrassed of my body. And so I tried really, really hard to work on gaining confidence again. And given I had always wanted my whole life. I was like, oh, if I could only just be a size 0, a size 2, a size 4, if I could only be 100 pounds, like then I would be happy. And at this time, I was still between like a size 0 and a 2. And I was so unhappy with my body. It was so difficult for me to actually feel content in my own skin because I had all these other voices saying what wasn't good enough and what I could improve on, that I just became this perfectionist. And that was so different from my personality and who I was prior to this. So I remember still trying to model as much as I could. And I had one consistent boutique client. And about 3 weeks before I left for Miss USA, they hired me for a campaign. I showed up, we get hair and makeup done. I'm so excited to be there. Like, modeling has always been something that I feel very comfortable in front of the camera. Once I'm there, like, I don't think about the way my body looks, or I don't get down on myself. And I think that that's why modeling was kind of an outlet for me. But at this shoot, I remember them handing me all these different bottoms, and they were extra small bottoms and 0 bottoms. And I couldn't fit into them. I was like a solid 2 at this point. And I was so uncomfortable. And you could probably see it on my face as we were shooting. And the owner came up to me, stopped the shoot early, and sent me home and said, you can come back and work with us again when you're back to your normal measurements. And it was just soul crushing. Like, I thought that I looked good when I showed up for this. I thought that modeling was also where I was getting a lot of confidence and a lot of validation. And it just kind of all came crumbling down right there, given I'm supposed to leave in a couple weeks. So I just went full crazy mode up until we were leaving, like trying every fat burner known to man, trying to spend countless hours in the gym, like trying to find clothes that would cover up parts that I was insecure about. And so by the time I left for Miss USA, I was in a totally different headspace than where I was at for Miss Arizona USA. I was so much more insecure. I was so much more critical of myself, which I really wish that if I could have gone back, I would have just told myself to like embrace this opportunity, because you're never going to have it again. You never thought you would have it. So like, go enjoy it, go network, go have a great time. And I did do all of those things while I was there. I just wish I could have gotten out of my own head a little bit more. And I'll dive into pageants in future episodes. We're sticking to the health and wellness space right here. So after Miss USA happened, I obviously didn't win, but my beautiful friend Nia Sanchez did. I came home and I was like, okay, I feel like now a lot of the pressure is off, because you're preparing for Miss USA for more than half your reign. And after that, it's like, okay, I just get to enjoy this title for as long as it lasts. And I did an interview. And on camera, the woman asked me how it felt to be one of the biggest girls at Miss USA. And I think she could just see my face drop. Like, I had just come off of it, was just feeling proud of myself. I was in between a size 2, maybe a size 4, and suddenly felt absolutely terrible. It was like, is that what people were truly thinking of me when they saw me on stage? And millions of people saw. And so I went into this complete downward spiral. Like, I was so anxious, I was so insecure, and I was so fed up with trying to like trick my body into looking good for a couple days. It was like I was only going to the gym to punish myself. I wanted to eat whatever the heck I wanted. I was sick of like trying to doll myself up all the time and just pretend to be somebody that I wasn't. So I went the complete opposite and just decided I was going to have fun. Like, I had just turned 21. I was having birthday parties all over the place. I was going out. I was having a good time. And I had completely let go of my strict lifestyle. So going from one extreme to the next, obviously your body can't figure out, like, what are you doing to me? Like, I just need a schedule. I need nutrients. I need you to chill out. And I think so much had caught up with me because I had gone through a lot of personal trauma during my fitness competition, during Miss Arizona USA. Like, my parents separated the week before I won Miss Arizona USA. But I didn't have time to like comprehend the fact that my family was getting split up because we had so much excitement going on. It was like it didn't matter. And I had broken up with my boyfriend of 6 years, somebody I loved very, very much. And I couldn't focus on that because I was so focused on like, what's next for me? What else am I doing? And now that everything that I was looking forward to had happened, I was just stuck with myself. And that's when I realized like I had everything I've ever wanted and I was so unhappy. So I've done a lot of work on myself over the past 5 years, a lot of work on my mental health, a lot of work on my health and wellness. And I'm finally to a place now where I realize I am so much more than my body. I've always been more than my body, but that's what I chose to focus on. And now it's turning a whole new page where it's like I'm focusing on who I am, what I offer, the impact that I can make on other people. I don't want to spend any more time in my day obsessing about whether I think I'm skinny or fat, because that's not going to get me anywhere. And I see so many women that are so insecure and keep saying like, oh, if I was only a size 2, I would be happy. Or if I had X amount of money, then I would be happier. If I had this boyfriend, then I would be happy. Or this job, or whatever it is. And I've learned firsthand that if you cannot be content with where you are, with what you have, with who you are, you will never be happy. That's just the bottom line. That's the basic truth. Like you need to learn how to be happy and confident in your own skin. I'm not saying that you can't strive to be better. I can't say that you need to love every single part of you every single day in order to be happy. That's not reality. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. But you need to get to a point where you can love and appreciate the skin that you're in. Then things can change. If you're working out because you love your body and you want to push yourself, your body's going to change. If you're feeding yourself to fuel yourself because you want to feel your best, your body's going to change. But there's so much focus on what our bodies look like and not enough focus on who we are and what we bring to the table. And that's a conversation I really wanted to spark up, especially with women. I know that everybody suffers with insecurities. Everybody has been labeled by something, whether somebody labeled you or you labeled yourself or you've been hiding behind insecurities or whatever it is. But I think in our society today, we're overloaded, especially with social media, on what we don't have. And it creates this vicious cycle of not only insecurity, but lack. We're not operating from a place of gratefulness. We're operating from a place of lack. And there's no wonder that mental health has health more than ever before. There's no wonder that people are more insecure than ever before. But we're also in a generation where people are talking about it. But I realize that when it comes to insecurities, a lot of people don't want to be vulnerable. And I get it. It's scary to be vulnerable. Like it's scary for me to have to open up about like the stuff that I did to my own body just because I thought that if I was skinny, I'd be happy. But once you can come from a place of acceptance and vulnerability and you can use your story to help other people, that's stuff that fuels you. And I've learned that there's so many people struggling with the exact same things. We just don't talk about it. And it's funny because I always idolized models and actors and people that you would see in magazines or in movies or whatever it is. Because believe it or not, I grew up at a time that Instagram did not exist. So I can't even imagine how much pressure kids have on them now. But I would always look at these women and be like, oh my gosh, like if I could only be like them, like they have no worries in the world. They don't struggle like I have. And now that I'm at a place where I have met some of my biggest role models, I'm friends with the girls that I used to admire from afar. And it's been so cool getting to know them and getting to know their stories because we only see the smallest portion of somebody. And not everybody is showcasing what they struggle with. And it was so freeing for me to understand that I'm not the only one who's been struggling with insecurities. I'm not the only one who's had to go through mental health battles. I'm not the only one that's had crippling anxiety. I can relate to other women, women that I admire, and we can find commonalities between us and support each other. That's what this life is all about. Like, we need to be able to support one another, and that will not only make them feel better, but it will make you feel better. You'll feel less alone. And in an age where we are more digitally connected than ever before, there is not enough human connection. And that's a big reason why I wanted to not only start this podcast, but start this company, because I want you girls to get to know some of the incredible women that I'll be bringing on, because their stories have truly changed my life. And I really do believe that they have the potential to change yours too, if you open yourself up and you just listen. So I appreciate you guys tuning into the first episode. If you guys have any questions or comments or want to know more about my journey, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that I even forgot. I mean, given this was 5-6 years ago. But if you guys have any questions or comments, and if there's women that you want to see on this podcast, I mean, I have women lined up for a while now, but I want to be interviewing women that you guys look up to and getting to know their stories and their journeys. So if there's women that you really want to have on this podcast, please comment on our Instagram. And I look forward to seeing you guys next week. So I hope this episode inspired and encouraged you. I love you guys. Take care of yourself.